I am.
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 I am. I am.
I am.
Alright, well, here it is. This here is our first official video in 9 months, over 9 months. What this was I went predator hunting with a friend of the channel, Bill Weaver. You know, Bill Weaver's done a bunch of videos between trapping and predator hunting for us. And I went out hunting with him. My good friend Carl Brevard joined us. He, ran the camera for us and stuff like that. And we just wanted to capture this experience on camera. Now, we didn't kill anything that night. We didn't actually shoot anything that night. But what ended up happening was every time we would come back from a set out in a field, I had questions. And I sat down and I filmed Bill's responses to all my questions. And it actually made for a really good video because of I tried to ask some questions that maybe people haven't thought of before and stuff like that. Now, I'm showing some of the hunting clip. It'll all be at the end of the video. The main idea for this is to get a sense of the sounds that Bill is producing whenever he's calling. I feel like that's one of the things that I can learn the most from Bill is how to call, because I got the shooting aspect of it down and I know how to watch for eyes and stuff like that. That's pretty simple stuff. That's pretty self-explanatory stuff to someone like me. But as far as like the calling aspect and the finer details, I feel like I have a lot to learn there yet. So every time I get a chance to learn something or there's something that I can teach you, I'm going to, still bring those videos to you. So, yeah, here it is. This is our first video in 9 months. I really hope you enjoy. If you want to see more quality videos like this, please reach out and let us know. Share it with your friends. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you and enjoy. Okay, now at one point while we were standing on this first stand here, you used a mouth call that imitated the same sound you were pulling out of your electronic call. That was a bobcat sound, correct?
No, that was actually Red Fox.
That was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe it was because a bobcat makes a sound similar to that, where it's a yeah, you know what I mean, almost like a quick yell, like a gravelly yell.
Yep. Usually bobcat's a little bit more higher pitched, and if you've ever heard a house cat in a fight or something like that, it's more of a sound. Yeah.
Okay. Now, that leads really well into my next question. This may sound morbid, but does anybody make a house cat in distress call?
Yes. I actually have that on my Fox Pro. I have kittens and house cat distress, and then I also have a mouth call that imitates that as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because obviously you and I, we've done a lot of the trapping talks and the predator talks at this point, and we've always talked about, hey, these things can come into your backyard and eat your house cat. Well, a house cat's a delicious meal to a coyote.
Yes.
So I mean, it would make perfect sense that somebody would develop a call that sounded like a cat getting eaten. Personally, I think.
Exactly.
Okay.
Way back in the day, everybody told me just to take a cat out with me and just hold it and make it meow.
I bet the Humane Society would love that. PETA would string you up by your toes.
Yes, and plus it's not legal to use live bait.
Yes, okay.
So,
now, my next question, on a stand like that where you're facing a lot of high grass that's close up like that, would it actually make more sense for one of us to actually have a shotgun as opposed to both of us at that stand? We had long range shooters, capable of, 200-yard plus shots. Wouldn't it make sense for one of us to have had a shotgun on that stand?
yes, it would have. I actually have, in one of my previous videos, you see me with a 22 Hornet over 20 gauge.
Yes.
And normally I would carry that, but my scope broke on it, so I don't have that gun to bring this year. So I was thinking about grabbing my 12 gauge, but just in the hurry that we were in getting ready tonight,
Fair enough. That was something that, like I told you, Jake and I had went out for bobcat last weekend, and I had him bring the 12 gauge pump.
Yep.
Because, you know, one of the places we were hunting was my property, my family's property, and it's a lot like that, where it's old stands of goldenrod and stuff like that, where, you know, it's about 3 feet high and it's pretty thick, and if something's going to jump out, a lot of times it's going to jump out, you know, 10 yards away from you.
Yep.
And that's a lot to get at with a scope on a 223.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even zoomed out to 3 power to get at that quick enough to get a bead on it before it spooks being that close. I feel like the shotgun would be way handier in that situation.
A lot of times, if we go out just for fun, just strictly for gray fox, we actually take shotguns.
Okay.
Because we go to thicker, just like for bobcat, we go to a thicker cover. They prefer thicker cover, and they stay right along the edges, and they don't quite, I mean, they'll come in and grab your call if you're not careful, and it could be like right at your feet. So we bring the shotguns and try to shotgun for them, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, now a question I thought of whenever that I didn't ask earlier. You've talked about, you know, you've had the game commission called on you doing these night hunts. You've had the police, you know, come up and everything. Is it generally after the shot for the police, or is it they see the red lights out in the field and they're curious? Like any predator, the police are curious whenever they see lights.
Exactly.
Is that generally the case, or is it generally after the shot?
Actually, I've had both. I've had the police called on me before I've even shot, and I definitely have had them called on me right after the shot. Game commission, usually they're just out driving around somewhere and they see you and come in and talk to you. But most of the time, though, it is after the shot. Somebody hears the shot, it's at night, you know, people get worried.
Fair enough. And the game commission, they're just coming in, they're just making sure you're not out there poaching, you know, things, exactly. Animals and such that you shouldn't be this time of year and that you're not licensed for.
Yep.
So they're not a big deal. Have you ever actually had any problems with the cops because of the hunting?
Never, actually. Usually they're pretty good about it. They just come in, they ask what we're doing, you know, and especially if we're carrying an animal out, they're actually usually excited whenever you're carrying an animal out. They're like, "Oh, that's awesome," you know, but they do ask to see your driver's license, your hunting license, and everything. You just, I mean, it's just like if you get pulled over by them, you just don't want to act like a jerk, you know, just.
But I don't know how to be anything but a jerk. No, I'm just kidding. No, we won't have any issues tonight. But now in the second set, you threw in a new call to me. It sounded like a bear. Was that a bear call that was mixed in there?
No, that was aggressive bobcat, actually.
That was aggressive bobcat. I was going to say, it sounded like my buddy Brady's bulldogs trying to breathe on a humid day, or a bear kind of growling. I thought, what in the world is he going to call in with a bear growl other than a bear?
No, that was aggressive bobcat. That's actually the only bobcat sound that I have on my call, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try it since we're watching for bobcat too. Season's still in.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, you were talking on the way out when we were walking out that it's a nice cloudy night. Is that preferable for you to have a cloudy night? You don't want to have a nice, you know, moonlit sky and stuff like that?
Right. If you've got full moon or something like that, as you're walking in, you're creating shadows. And of course, also with the red lights, even some of your brighter lights, you can't see as far. So you want a nice dark night. That way then you're not creating shadows, and you can see a lot further on nights like that as well.
Now, with that, if it's a nice snow-covered night, not like the snow's falling, but the snow's already down, you know what I mean, and you got a good crust on it, is that a good night to go out, or not really?
If it's a really crusty night, where the snow has a lot of crust on it, you're going to make a lot of noise walking in. I'm not saying that you're not going to call anything in, but you're probably going to spook everything out of the area walking in. Preferably, I like a nice powdery snow that you can just slide your feet through, you know, and it doesn't make as much noise.
Okay, but an added benefit, though, is whenever you shine your red light out there, it does pick up a lot more, right, because of the brightness. I did find that out Friday night with Jake. There was still a lot of snow on the ground at that point, and it really made our lights stand out really well. Yeah. But the problem we had was it had that ice crust on top.
Yep.
So, me being, almost 270 pounds, I'm tall, so I'm allowed to weigh a little bit more. I'm still fat. But, walking on that crust, there was just no way I wasn't making noise, exactly, no matter how softly I walked.
Exactly. you know, even in powdery snow, sometimes you get that crunch to it, but it's not as loud as the nice ice-covered snow because you're kind of breaking through that. This stand that we're on right now, there's across the fence row, there's actually what they call the spray fields. They actually spray water out across those for research, and they actually do it through the winter. So if you get snow on that and then they spray, it gets very crunchy, very icy. Number one, you can fall, hurt yourself. You've got a gun and everything.
I don't know anybody that would fall while they're hunting.
No,
All right.
But you know, it's also a safety thing too. A lot of ice. You just don't want to go out in a lot of ice either.
Now, you said about this next place that we're going to, there's a good chance, even if we don't see something, we could actually get a response from a coyote because apparently the coyote population is that high in that area. Now, we've also talked in the past, you've had a lot of really close encounters. Have you ever had a coyote call, respond back to your call, where it was so close, you were like, oh my, where it sets a hair up on the back of your neck?
Actually, not the last time I went out, because I went out by myself, but I took Tyler with me, which you've all met Tyler on previous videos, and I actually took another friend of mine with me, and the coyotes howled close enough that it was, you know, all of us kind of jumped a little bit, but that got our hearts pumping that they were coming in, but then they never did come in.
Now, as far as temperature wise, last year when you and I went out, it was in the negatives with like 15-mile-an-hour winds, so it was amplified. You know, this year we're out and it's got to be a good 40 degrees warmer, almost no wind. Is it preferable for the colder temperatures or the warmer temperatures, or does it really seem to make a difference?
In some ways, it doesn't make a difference. Early season, the end of October, whenever everything comes in, you're hitting some nights, you know, you're in the 30s, some nights you're in the 40s, and this year we've been weird. We've been up to almost the 50s. It doesn't matter. It's just how hungry that predator is to come in to the call.
Okay, so it's not like trapping where, like we've discussed, you know, the harder winters, it's easier to trap because things are a little bit more desperate at that point.
Exactly.
It doesn't relate the same way here with predator hunting?
It does. Like the nights with, you know, extremely gusty winds, you know, a lot of times I'm going to stay home. But we have had hunts where we've been on stand and trees and limbs and stuff are falling around us, and we've called animals in and killed them on those nights.
Now, do you notice those nights, do the animals seem to come more from the direction the wind is blowing because the sound is carrying through the wind that direction more, or did they still just come from whatever direction they're coming from?
They come from whatever direction they're coming from, and on those nights, it seems that they do want to circle downwind of you to smell what they're going to, but the wind's going so hard that they just charge right in usually.
Okay. Now, you know, you and I, we talked off video about a recent Pennsylvania Game News article about bobcat hunting and stuff. And in that article, that guy actually said he likes windy days for hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you prefer windy days, or you kind of mentioned either really windy or almost no wind?
Yeah. It all depends. The wind actually covers your sound going in. If you're crunching a lot, it's going to cover your sound. You know, just a light breeze going across that carries your scent really well. The harder the wind, it kind of blows your scent out of the area. Calm nights, of course, you have hardly any wind, so the predator is going to come in and it's going to try to circle around, and you're going to get a better shot at it on more windless nights.
Okay, right on. Okay, now you spoke a little bit while we were out in the field about the use of mouth calls, and that mouth calls can be effective because they produce a different sound than the electronic calls, and even imperfections are good because every coyote sounds a little bit different.
Yes.
Now, on that note, I know certain species of animals that are regionally isolated from relatives, you know what I mean, can develop different dialects. Have you ever messed around with the difference between coyote calls made for the western coyote versus the coyote call made for the eastern coyote? Is there much of a difference between that, or you haven't really explored that, or you don't really have an answer?
No, actually, I have never
even contemplated that?
Even contemplated that, because most of the time, whenever, I mean, you see videos, and my cousin actually lives in New Mexico. He sent me videos of coyotes howling. He works on oil rigs out there, so he gets to hear them all the time. And they don't actually sound much different than ours. They're smaller than our coyotes. You know, eastern coyotes anywhere from 25 to 40 pounds, you know. You can get into bigger 50-pound males, but that's far and few between.
Yeah,
out west, you know, you're looking at a 25, 30-pound coyote, the biggest out there. But I don't hear much of a difference in the voice of them. So.
Okay. Well, for reference, I don't remember the specific type of animal. I think it was birds. That like southern birds that live down the southern part of the United States will actually have a different dialect than the same species of bird that, you know, spends most of its time in the northern part of the United States, where they're not interacting. They'll actually have different dialects. They may sound similar, but they're not exactly the same.
That would actually be a very cool research project for coyote and fox. Western states don't have as many, if any, red fox. They have more gray fox out there, and a lot of coyotes. But that would be very interesting to actually record them and then try
and analyze the sounds and see what the difference is. That's going to take somebody a little bit more than us with a little bit better equipment than us, but no, you're right. I think that would be something that if somebody who was really serious into it and traveled a lot and could, you know, record the different sounds from, you know, because obviously they're not interacting once you cross the Mississippi River.
Right.
The eastern coyote and the western coyote are not interacting anymore. You know, and they're going to grow separately, and obviously they have already, just in size and looks and everything. It's reasonable in my mind that they would develop different dialects. They may still sound similar and use the same language patterns.
Yes.
As, you know, say me versus, you know, somebody from Louisiana. We're still both speaking English, but we very much have different dialects and vernaculars that would make sometimes conversation difficult because they're using words for different things than what we would use them for here in the northern part of the United States.
Yeah. Sometimes with animals, especially predators, I can't say that they lack the ability to reason, but they, in a way, do lack the ability to reason between different sounds, because a dying rabbit is a meal, no matter whether it's coming out of a call speaker or whether it's an actual dying rabbit, you know. So I don't know if they would really tell the difference between each other's voice or not, especially during breeding season.
Fair enough. That would be something, though, you know. We've talked a lot about, you know, I think it was more off camera than on camera, about, you know, trying, you know, things. We lost our light.
There we go.
trying sounds that other hunters aren't actually using in this area, because, you know, sounds get over polluted. That maybe, you know, somebody that is making calls specifically for the western coyote, that's maybe not been used a whole lot here in Pennsylvania, may actually be more effective because it's a different sound than what the coyotes are used to hearing from, you know, the 5 local guys here in Pennsylvania that are making lure calls.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're specifically targeting the eastern coyote.
Yeah. You know, and that is, as we get later in the season here, that's why I'm trying a lot of different calls. I'm not, a few of the stands I've used, you know, baby cottontail sounds or distressed rabbit of some kind. But a lot of times I'll try something different, because since I've started hunting predators, there's been a lot more people into the sport, and everybody uses the same type of sound. We all order from the same companies. We all try the same things.
That's the thing. You know, obviously Fox Pro brand calls are made here in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And it seems like every Pennsylvania predator hunter has a Fox Pro predator call.
Exactly.
And every Fox Pro predator call, whether you're getting the bottom of the line one or the top of the line one, if they got a coyote howl on it, they all sound exactly the same.
So that's why, like I said, in the later season, say in early season, nobody has tried Baby Goat Kid. I'm gonna try Baby Goat Kid in later season and see if that works. I use a lot of hand calls in later season also. I'll probably break out some more here as we go tonight and try them out. The last one that I used on this stand was an actual diaphragm call, like a turkey call. But I'll probably get out an open reed call or something like that and try howling with that and see. And I kind of work with the call itself. So say I'm using, you know, lone coyote howl, I'll add in a howl of my own from that hand call. That way then it breaks that sound up, because the coyotes heard lone coyote howl 1,000 times this year. So I'm going to break it up with a different, and they'll say, wait a minute, that's different, and come in.
Right on. All right.